Good evening, everyone, and on today's episode.
Oh, God, what was that? Anyway, hey guys, I'm Aaron. I'm gonna be the host here for. I don't really know how long. Me and Murphy are probably gonna trade, seeing who gets to do what episode, but either way, you're probably gonna hear me for a while now. Anyway, no more nonsense. Let's just get on to the topic of today's theory. Will N sacrifice himself? Will N actually sacrifice himself in episode 8 of Murder Drones? The ending of episode 7, Mass Destruction, was quite sad as we saw Uzi do a noble sacrifice to save N's life when the solver became too much for the two to handle. And seeing no way out, Uzi shoved N outside of the cathedral while she was taken by the solver's powerful grasp. And this was the second sacrifice following V's at the end of episode 6, where she gave up the fight with the Sentinels to allow Uzi, N, and Tessa to escape down the elevator shaft. However, we still don't know V's true fate, but it's most likely she is dead. Which leads me to today's theory: will serial designation N, Uzi's best friend, end up sacrificing himself to save her in the upcoming episode 8? We have seen N show heroic traits throughout the show, like how in episode 2 Heartbeat, he goes deeper into the colony to confront Sin and get answers to the recent disappearances, as well as during episode 3 The Promenading, he fights Doll, a solver user, in an attempt to save V, despite the fact that she's been everything but nice to him leading up to this moment, also saving V again from solver host Uzi. So we already know that N is the nicest of the three murder drones and will not hesitate to put his own life on the line to save the lives of others. As mentioned earlier, N is not the only character to sacrifice himself, or at least intended to. First to do so was Serial Designation V during episode 6 Dead End, when the four of them went underground to gain access to the Cabin Fever labs to get the list of all those infected by the solver. However, before they could go down in the elevator, Doll stole the key bug and opened the gates containing the Sentinels, letting them loose, causing V to have to fight them off. She had a pair of sunglasses which prevented the Sentinels from using their signature technique, which is boot looping other drones, which stuns them and does not allow them to defend themselves. We saw examples of just how devastating this move is, as we saw Alice be boot looped and killed almost instantly, as well as other worker drones earlier in the episode. While from a strength and skill standpoint, yes, V was stronger, which is why wearing the sunglasses gave her such a large advantage. However, during the fight, the glasses fell off of her face and were crushed by a Sentinel, meaning that V is now vulnerable to being boot looped and shifts to defense rather than offense, so she doesn't get looped. At this point, there is no way out and it's only a matter of time until the Sentinel successfully boot loops her. But in this moment, V tells Uzi she trusts her and cuts down the elevator cables, sending the elevator crashing down, while V stays to face the Sentinels and gets eaten by them, dying in the sacrifice to save the others, completing her redemption arc. The sacrifice we see was a lot more impactful, at least for me, since Uzi is the main character and her friendship with N is a lot more crucial to the story. In episode 7, Mass Destruction, the solver fully takes over Uzi and uses her body to fight both N and her mother Nori. And for a while, the two seem to be winning until Nori is about to be eaten and killed. But N's quick thinking tries to awaken Nori's motherly instinct and fight with Uzi more as a mother than an opponent, causing Nori to completely ignore the solver and scold her daughter, telling her how she should not be hanging out with murder drones as they once killed her. Uzi breaks from the solver's control and starts yelling at Nori, saying that she doesn't own her, and in this fit of rage she kicks Nori down to the pits of the solver and subconsciously fighting with her mom but not yet being aware. Once she is told by N, the two scream and hug, and in this moment the Tessa we just saw get decapitated stands up and puts her head back on her shoulders and uses parts of Doll's body to create the new form which has been dubbed Sinessa, and the creature tries to kill both Uzi and N. However, just as the end is near, Uzi chops off N's leg that was gripped by the solver and yeets him out of the cathedral and fully accepts her fate and is presumed dead by N, as well as the audience. But in the end scene, we see Uzi floating above the atmosphere, and we see the sheer amount of destruction the solver has caused, so we know she is not dead, meaning Nori is also somewhere in space, as well as she fell into the same pit when Uzi yeeted her earlier. Now episode 8 will be the last and final sacrifice, and that will be N. Don't believe me? Well, let's first discuss how N has committed many sins in the show. So from a writing standpoint, him sacrificing himself would atone for all the sins he's committed, the most obvious of which being his slaughtering of innocent worker drones. Uzi has been afraid of him multiple times in the show, and even though they regained their trust in the last episode, there seems to be a common theme of going back and forth as to how Uzi feels about him. Currently, Uzi does not know what N did back on Earth, and it's likely N would not want her to know, otherwise she might run from him again. Both Nori and Khan do not approve of Uzi's friendship with N. N simply stated in the last episode that he loves to hang out with Uzi, and that alone was enough for Nori to drop the wrath of God on Uzi, and her parents are justified in their anger and distrust. Even though recruiting the disassembly drones has been helpful, Uzi was still being childish and irresponsible with the way she went about in the story. Episodes 6 and 7 have had new merchandise revolving around the Heavenly Battle acrylic set. There are 3 in total, but we have only gotten 2 so far. The V one when she self-sacrificed at the elevator, the Uzi one from when she was taken by the tendrils, and it's likely that the third set will be of N. What's interesting about the third one is that it's the last one, so there will be one more major sacrifice before the show ends. And the thing about the final episode is that you can't have a fake-out death if it's the final. Whoever is in the final set is going to have a permanent death, and it's increasingly likely to be N. This is probably the most damning evidence for an N sacrifice, and I feel as though it will be final, just like V and not a fake-out. Even though Uzi survived, the 3 still fought with the knowledge in their own head that they are going to die. And look closely at the stands. They resemble religious stained glass, like what you would find at church. Think about it. Jesus Christ from the Christian religion is known to have died for our sins to give humans a second chance at getting into heaven when they passed away. Many churches depict the crucifixion of Jesus in stained glass, just like these stands. Also, maybe their sacrifices may be worshipped like a religious figure for what they died fighting for, and completing the 3 stands with the sacrifice makes too much sense. So much, in fact, Drone Throne and I are actually pretty saddened by this realization. Besides, N has said himself that he loves doing anything. Bro may stick to heart on that one. It's also very likely that J will meet a similar fate to N, as she will likely be killed yet again by the railgun, and with episode 8, all the murder drones will die in their own way, leaving Uzi, her family, and the rest of the surviving worker drones to live out the rest of their lives. However, we have seen murder drones survive near death time and time again. First example being during episode 3, The Promiting, both N and V get attacked by Doll and are in literal pieces, yet later on reform and are up and talking as if nothing ever happened. As well, during the same episode in the space pod, N is talking with V and she literally chops his head off, and then a few scenes later, he wakes up as if he just had a wicked power nap. And the most notable example of these darn murder drones being harder to kill than a cockroach was none other than the scene during the pilot episode when Uzi shoots Jay with a railgun at point-blank range. She reappears at the end of 5, and the beginning of 6, gloating about how effective drones were cloned more, implying she was cloned. So maybe V and N may actually survive. Hard to say at this point in time, but was most likely N will sacrifice himself. Whether he survives or not still remains to be seen, but maybe we will get to some kind of continuation in the form of a prequel, and we will see more of N eventually. Alright, well that's all we got for today. Thanks for watching. As your new host Aaron, make sure to like and sub the channel, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye!